Hi, I'm Megan Hernandez, and today I'm going to show you guys how I design my pins for Pinterest. This question came up a lot in previous videos, and today I'm finally going to share with you how I design them, how I get, outbound clicks, saves, and how I've had multiple pins go viral. If you're not familiar with who I am, I'm a blogger just like you guys in the food and recipe space. And if you happen to know who I am and you came over from my last video where I kind of went on a rant about my frustrations with Pinterest, then welcome. And you might be wondering, why am I making a Pinterest video? However, I am not walking away from Pinterest altogether. I would be kind of crazy too, because I'll put up here my numbers. I'm still getting just over 25,000 outbound clicks every month to my website, which is still a really, really good number. That is my goal, to drive traffic from Pinterest over to my website, since that's where it's being monetized with Mediavine. So I'd be crazy to step away and just ignore it altogether. However, the key here is that I am keeping Pinterest very, very low effort, which I've explained in other videos. So I won't go too much into that. Instead, today I'm going to jump on the computer and I'm going to show you guys just hands-on how I design a pin from start to finish, and just give you guys some tips that I've learned along the way to make them the best pins possible to get as many saves and outbound clicks as you can. So if you are brand new to Pinterest and designing pins, the very first thing you should do is some research within your niche. So whether it's DIY, travel, crafts, whatever it is, go look up a topic within your niche and then go through those pins and pay attention to the ones that look appealing to you, the ones that you would actually click on. So since I always use recipes as an example, I'm going to try to use something else, and let's search how to decorate. Here, let's go with this. How to decorate a bedroom. And then see what pops up, and you will just notice what looks appealing to you and what doesn't. It could be different fonts, different images. For whatever reason, some are going to stand out to you more than others. And save those ones. Use those as inspiration for designing your pins. I highly, highly recommend not skipping this step and doing the research, because it gives you a place to start. You're not just starting from scratch with zero idea of, what kind of titles or fonts to use. And again, you'll see which ones stand out or which ones make you want to click. For some reason over here, this one grabs my attention. I don't know if it's because the font is large, they have a pretty image in the back. It tells you exactly what this pin is going to do. So do that, pay attention, and save those ones to come back to for inspiration. Now I'm going to come over to the pins that I've created on my own account, because I did something a little bit different. And I'm going to use what I did to kind of show you examples of good pins versus bad pins. And then after that, I'll get into how to design a pin. So I actually brought someone on to help me in January and February with my Pinterest account. She was going to, she did design all of the pins. She was in charge of pinning and just managing everything to do with my Pinterest account. However, I have stopped using her. Nothing against her. She did, what she said she was going to do, but I didn't like the way the design of the pins were coming out, which is kind of funny because I gave her the name of the fonts that I like. She was using my images. So I was really surprised at how much I was still just not liking them. And I'm going to use that as an example. So right here, all of these recent pins that you see right here were all designed by myself. So you can kind of see I use a very kind of the same kind of a template, same fonts. My images are just really clean. They're bright. And I'll kind of show you the difference between mine and hers. So we're still in mine. This one right here is actually an example of one that Tailwind designed for me. I'm experimenting with Tailwind. I will let you guys know later how I like it. I actually paid for, one of their premium subscriptions, but I'm not sold on it yet. And this is an example of one it designed for me, but you can see the font's a little different. It's also a lot shorter. It's not as long of an image as these other ones over here that I design. So here's an example right here, this black bean and corn pasta salad one. That's an example of one that the girl I had helped me with. And again, she used the fonts that I said, and she even used my image. But there's something about this one that just doesn't look as appealing to me. And I personally think it's this color combination, the black font on this dark green. I also I don't know, I would have done some editing. There's different effects in Canva you can use on that font. So again, there's a lot of different little things that I like and I'm very picky about with my pins, which again, I'm going to show you guys in just a little bit. But I wanted to use this as an example for what I feel like good pins look like versus bad pins. And again, not to say, you know, she was doing anything wrong. There's just a very specific style that I feel is working for me, and she wasn't quite nailing it. And it showed in the numbers, all of the traffic and engagement, everything that I'm getting right here, all of my saves, clicks, these are all pins that I designed. All the ones that she made just never, they just never did well. And I think that's why there's just little different things that I'm doing on mine that I feel are making a difference. So I'm going to scroll down again. These are all still mine, but I want to show you a section where it gets into the ones she was doing. So you can see more than just that one example. Again, you can just see mine are all very long. There's a very specific ratio that I like to use, certain fonts, certain templates. I really like this one. Again, you can just see they're very clean, kind of straightforward. Okay, here's two right here, this Mediterranean chicken orzo skillet, and this one over here. This is my Southwest soup. These are two that she did, and if you notice, she put a filter over these pins, which she explained to me is kind of a way to trick Pinterest. It basically, you can use one pin that you've already designed, put a filter on it, and Pinterest thinks it's a new pin. However, I did not really like this strategy because the filters just didn't make the image look very good. And yes, you might be getting some more pins out of that one pin you designed, but if those pins aren't appealing and they're not getting clicked on, then they mean nothing. So again, it was an interesting strategy, but I don't like how they were coming out. So here's some more examples of mine. It's always, you know, a light background with the text on it, so the text stands out. All of these are just, you know, they're clean images, they're bright, they're not overly filtered, and you can tell exactly what the recipe is. I try to tease it with some, you know, like notes about the recipe, if it's healthy, easy, a one-pot meal. But all of these are ones that I've made, and they're all, you know, they all do much, much better than the ones that she was making. So let me show you some more of hers. So here we're getting into the section where it was all the pins that she was doing. So again, using like a dark background with the text, I don't personally like. It would not make me click on it. This has a filter on it again, which again, I don't think it does any justice to the image. A lot of these, same thing. Just the filter, I think, was a big problem. Sometimes she's just keeping the font a little simple where, like I said, there's some effects in Canva that I think really make the text stand out. This one was a really colorful pasta recipe, but the filter on here just kind of killed that. So you can see, I don't know if you can tell the difference between the ones that I was designing and all of these. They just don't look as appealing to me. And I personally, as a user, would not click on these. So just wanted to use that as an example of how, you know, it makes a difference to have good, clean, really visually appealing pins versus pins that just, you know, they're missing something. Because if they're missing something and they don't get clicked on or they don't get saved, then all that work was for nothing. So let's come over to Canva and design a pin from scratch. This is the program I use for all of my pins. I used the free version for a really long time, and you can do a lot with the free one, but the paid one, the premium, does come with a ton of like stock photos and different stickers and elements that you can add. So for me, I actually don't need it as much because I'm using my own images of the recipes, the food that I make. But if you're in a different space and you need access to stock images, then I highly recommend looking into the paid version. I think it's $15 a month. So let's get started here. I'm just going to do this from scratch where you hit create a design. And we're going to go over here down to custom size. And Pinterest likes at least a 1000 by 1500 pixel image. However, I like to go a little bit bigger. I always do 1000 by 2000 pixels. For me, I don't know, I feel like that works better. I think it looks a little more appealing. It takes up a little more space. It gets people's attention. But you can experiment with that. Just at least do 1000 by 1500. Hit create new. And here we have our blank canvas. So if you guys noticed on my pins, I really like this specific format where there's an image, text, and then another image. And I also use one where it is some text at the top, here, like this one over here, and then a nice, really clean image in the background. Those are basically the two main templates that I stick with. And I actually do have a template set up so that I can just go in and update the photos and the text, but I'm going to show you how I did that from scratch. So here we're back to our blank canvas. And if you go over to elements, there's actually two different ways you can do this. One way is to go to elements and hit grid. And it's gonna pop up different formats. This is the one I like to use right here, where it's an image on the top, image on the bottom. We are now, these little blank fields with the sky and the hills are spaces where you can drag and drop a photo. So I'm gonna go over to uploads. If you don't have your pictures in here, just hit upload and save them in here from your computer. But I'm gonna work with ones that are already in here. So I'm going to put this one, you just drag and drop it until it, pops in there. You can double click it to kind of edit where it's at, edit the size of this. I think I like it there. That's it done. And over here, we need to add another one. So let's add this one. And some text is going to go in the middle here. So I don't want the text to cover this little bowl. So I'm going to edit this and I'm going to flip this around, which is this little button. And actually, I think I want the green on the top. Green, I've noticed, just looks appealing to people. And there. We'll see how that works. I don't want this to get covered up too much here. You know what I can do? I can actually make this a little bit bigger. And you'll see why in a second, because I'm trying to be mindful of the text that's going to go in the middle of this picture. So let's just start there for now. And the next thing you're going to want to add is go back to elements. And we're going to add, actually, let's do square. Oops. We want one of these boxes that you can, okay, that's it. So just type in square. The first one that pops up, you want one that you're able to drag all sides. Some only let you drag from like top or the side only. So you want one that you can adjust on all different sides. And I am going to just make this be in the middle, a little wider. Let's start there. And let's use the orange because, again, something that I learned, at least in my own recipe space, I like a lighter background. Let's go with this cream color and a darker text on the lighter background. Now, that is not, you don't have to do that. Experiment in a lot of other spaces. You are just fine to do a darker background and lighter text. Just make sure there's contrast between the text and the background. You don't want like a dark background and a dark font. Make sure that you can really, really clearly see the font. So let me stop here and mention one thing. You should kind of know your goal in mind before you're designing your pins, which should probably be one of two things, either to get saves or to get clicks. My goal is to get clicks, which is why I always have text on my pin, because I'm trying to tease the reader or the user into clicking over to my recipe. If you are only trying to get saves, then sometimes it's more important to just have a really pretty, aesthetically pleasing image, and sometimes you can get away with no text. So keep that in mind. If you're trying to design pins just for saves, then you might need a different approach. Right now, I'm kind of showing you guys how I design them to get outbound clicks. All right, so we've already got our ratio set. We have our images in there. Now we are going to add some text. So you're going to come over here and click on the text button. Click on the purple add text box, and let's make that a little bigger. You can also do that by right here, just changing the font size. I'll just go with 50 to start. Okay, so in here, I'm going to put the title first of my recipe, which this is cheesy Cajun pasta. with, oops, ground turkey. Okay, this is kind of a long recipe title, so oops, let's fix that. This is what I'm going to start with. Now I'm going to go up to the font. I have a very specific set of fonts that I use. So on your main text, you want to make sure it's a clear font that people can read easily. I love like the fancy handwritten fonts, but I use those on like different parts of the text, which I'll show you in a second. But for the main part, I want it to be a clear, legible text, which I love pop-ins. And okay, so this is still really small. We are going to work with this here. Let's try and make this, let's go to 75. Okay, that's better. But now this is all spread out. I don't like how this looks. If you go on up here into the toolbar, there's a spacing button. If you click that, you can adjust right here the space between the lines, which I want to bring closer together. Okay, so that looks better. And some people would just, maybe leave it like that. But again, whatever you can do to your text to make it stand out, I really think makes a difference. So I'm going to show you a couple things that you can do right here in the effects tool, right up here on this toolbar. This is like different things you can do to your text, which sometimes, first, I know I like to make this font bold. And I'm going to experiment with some effects. Sometimes outlining it can look cool. You can see it defaults to outline in gray, but you can change that outline in white, different colors. Let's go over here. This is one sometimes I like to use a lot on my main text, and you can see here without it bolded, that's what it looks like. It adds like a little highlighted kind of feel to it. I don't know what you call it. It's called lift, but it looks like it's like got a little light behind it. And you can change the intensity right here. But experiment with these. There's a lot of different cool ways you can make your text look. So this is one. I like to use the lift one a lot. And another effect I like to use is the splice effect. But you have to kind of experiment with it. So if I click splice right now, when the text is just normal, it really doesn't like stand out that much. It doesn't really look, it doesn't look that great to me. But if I change this text to bold, you can kind of see that it looks really cool. It like fills in the letters with a color, and it has this cool outline. So this is one I like to use a lot too, splice and lift. But again, just experiment with these different effects because they can really make your text stand out a lot. So for this example, I am just going to go back to lift and leave that like this for now. And now this is the part where I add some little notes. I guess you can call it kind of a call to action, some teasers about the recipe that get the reader or the user to click over. So this is a one-pot meal, which I know is just highly searched, and those recipes are, they usually do really well. So I want to mention that this is one pot. So I'm going to add a new text box and put one pot. Oops, it was on caps. One pot. Okay, so let's drag this up here. And I kind of like to put it a little bit over the little background square and a little bit over the image. I don't know why, I just think that looks pretty. And this is where I use some more fun fonts. So the handwritten font that I like the best is this one, Apricots. Now it changed there, and here I want to use the effect of the outline. I'm going to outline this in white. I clicked outline here. Right down here is where these options pop up for what you can adjust within that effect. And I want to change the outline from gray to white. And I don't know if you noticed there, it kind of makes it just pop a little bit more. And I'm also going to change that font size to be a little bigger. So now let's move where that's at. And it always gives you these lines so you can make sure it's centered. I love Canva so much. They make, designing the pins really, really easy. And again, after you get some templates that you figured out you like, then just save those templates. And it's so easy to just come in and plug in your photos and change the text. So I'm good with this. I don't know about this font color. I think the black, I don't know. I would experiment with that. I think red might almost pop a little bit more. So to change the font color, not the outline, you just click on this little button up here. Like red kind of stands out a little bit more. Again, this is just something to experiment with. Let's see what it looks like here as red. Make it kind of match. That looks pretty good. I think it looks a little bit better than the black. It could be a little darker, but again, I'll just kind of, let's use this for an example. But this is something to experiment with. Make sure that the color you're using stands out and it's not, it doesn't blend in with the photos in the background. So I will move on to the next thing. Down here, I like to leave a little bit of space for some other teasers. So now I already said that this is a one-pot meal. Now I want to think of what else will get that person to click over to this recipe. What makes this recipe stand out? So this is a quick recipe. It's an easy recipe. It's also high protein, which is kind of trending right now. So I am going to fit those words in right here. This is how I do that. We're going to add another text box, bring it down. Let's make our font size. Let's just go 45 for now. Okay, we're going to bring this down under the main text. And I like to just do, easy, a little bar, quick, high protein. Okay, so those are my little teasers. I like to do it this way, just with that little bar in between as a spacer. And here's how you make sure it's centered, make sure you get in between. I'm going to unbold that because I don't want it to overpower the other text. This is supposed to be, like the subtext. And for now, I think that looks pretty good. You can kind of experiment within Canva. There are so many different elements they have to make your pin stand out. So I'll show you really quickly a little thing I like to use sometimes. I'll bring this down and over in the element section, if you just put line, and you can go in here. I don't know if the one I like is under shapes or graphics. Let's see shapes. No. Okay, I went and searched line with heart. This is the one I'm looking for. Actually, let's do this one. Make it a little bit bigger. We're going to put it as like kind of a separator between the main text and this subtext. So to me, I don't know. I just really like how this looks. Again, I don't think this is the right font color, but we'll kind of leave this alone for an example. You can, you saw how I did the text, different effects you can use, how you should set up your template. If you want to try the 2-image format. Now, if you want to make a pin with just one image and not this double image format, here I'm going to click add page. That will just keep the ratio the same. I'm still working with 1000 by 2000 here. And you can use the grid if you want to do a single image. You can also just pop your photo right onto this. So I'll show you as an example. Let's do this one. If you leave it a certain way, hover over it, it will kind of like just pull it directly into filling up the space. So here's just a way you can, kind of play with this. I like doing this format too, just picking a really nice image that takes up the whole background. And then you add your text the same way. You would come over to elements, grab your little square to make the background for the text. If you want, you could also put text directly over this and have no background. This is, again, just the way I like to do it. And here, we're going to change this color again. Let's make it lighter. And you can also change the transparency, which I sometimes like to do. So this little grid up here, if you click on that, you can adjust this so that some of the picture kind of shows through, which I like to do on this format. When I have one image in the background, I'll bring this box up. Actually, I don't know, it might look better in the middle. I'm trying basically to be mindful of where I'm putting my text so that it's not covering like the best or like the prettiest part of the picture. So here's an example of one that I did. Here's a finished pin with that same format, just the single image in the background and my text up here. And you can see a little bit of the picture through it. I did use the transparency function here. So I will kind of leave that alone. That's basically all the basics as far as how I design my pins. But before I wrap this up, I know a lot of you might not be using your own images. So let me show you where you can find a pretty good like stock library here in Canva. If you go to Elements, and I don't know, say you're doing the, you're in home decor, I'm gonna need, an image of, let's say, a bedroom. And you can, give it more information, like look, a luxury bedroom pops up, and you can go into photos. They have different, they have graphics and they also have photos, but I'm assuming most of you would want an actual like real photo. And you can kind of see here all of the different images they have. Anything with this little crown, you have to have the premium version to use. So if you, oops, where did that go? So if you don't have your own images and you do need to use some stock images, then again, I highly recommend going with the paid version of this. They have so many really nice photos in here. So personally, I wish I could use this function. This would make my life so much easier, but just because of the content I share, I need to be able to kind of share a picture of the food I'm making. But if not, I would definitely make use of this library of photos. Because again, they just have some really, really nice ones, and they are, copyright free. You are allowed to use those on your pins and not worry about, stealing someone else's or if they belong to someone else. So the next step after you make your pins is to get them into Pinterest, which I made a whole video that kind of takes over from this point and shares how I go about my pinning, which I will link in the description. So go off, do some research in your niche, make sure you pay attention to the ones that stand out to you. Make sure you look at the titles. Is there something that's getting you to click on it more than others? And then just use those as inspiration. Pay attention to the fonts on your own images, the color contrast. Make sure you're using really, really high quality photos. And if you check all those boxes, then you are setting yourself up really, really well for that pin to do well in Pinterest. As always, if you guys have any questions on what I'm doing, just feel free to ask in the comments. If this helped you out, please remember to give this video a like, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on all this free, valuable blogging information that I am sharing. Thank you so much.